Draft day, we've got tons of new news, rumors, updated 30 visits about what the San Francisco 49ers could be up to tonight in the first round and later in the 2024 NFL Draft. Yeah, all right. It's draft day. It's finally here. I'm pumped for it. I know you guys are pumped for it. See some of you already jumping in here in the live chat. Just a little primer, getting us ready here in the afternoon as we get ready for the NFL Draft to kick off this evening. And make sure you are tuned in here to the OT with BP channel, because my Locked On 49ers co-host Eric Crocker will be with me. We'll jump on probably, I don't want to be honest with you, I don't want to be doing this for 4 straight hours, right, during the NFL Draft. So Croc and I are going to jump on around 6 p.m. here on the live stream to start breaking down the second half of the first round. Want to be on the air in an area where I think maybe there could be a potential Brandon Aiyuk trade. Maybe the 49ers could move up if they go way up into the teens. So second half of the first round, around 6 p.m., we're going to start the live stream here and take you through the 49ers pick. And then we're going to jump over to the Locked On 49ers podcast as well and break down the pick after it happens tonight, live on YouTube. And that'll be in your audio feeds first thing tomorrow morning as well. And then we're going to come back on Friday, second round, be on Eric Crocker's channel. Make sure you're subscribed there for that. And then who knows, round 3, maybe back here. And I'll be talking to you guys a lot this weekend and throughout the NFL Draft, all 7 rounds, about what's going on with the San Francisco 49ers. And I'm getting excited about it, man. It's a Merry Christmas, right? It's Merry Christmas for us out here. Merry Draftsmas for us draftniks, us fans of football. And there's so much of, shout out from Brussels. I love it, man. Hell yeah. Yeah, work. What's that? Yeah, if you guys are tuning in at work, don't get in trouble or anything from your bosses, but maybe utilize the headphones here. And yeah, so I'm pumped for this one. And there's a little bit of news out today about the NFL, about a bunch of teams in the NFL Draft and what could be going down. And so let's get into some of those things, and maybe even like a little, I'm not going to do a draft sim or anything like that today, but I do want to look at project what I think is going to happen, because to be honest with you, I think my idea of what the draft board is going to look like is better than what these draft sims have. And I don't want to try to beat the simulator. I want to talk about what I think is realistic and where the 49ers head might be at in multiple rounds of this NFL draft. So, Balky, one fart away from trading a first-round pick for Brandon Aiyuk. That's a possibility, man. Brandon Aiyuk does have those long arms. Trent Baalke loves arm length. They have been tied to wide receivers in this draft. I could absolutely see it happening. There's a number of ways this thing could go with Brandon Aiyuk. Let's start there really quick. Josh Norris of Underdog Fantasy, he's been really good at projecting what the draft is going to be. And, I think he's not an insider necessarily, but I think he does have some connections. He has some high profile guests on his podcast, and he's really good. And I think he's the reigning mock draft champion of the guy who's had the most right picks ever in mock drafts and first rounds of mock drafts on these sites that actually these guys compete and put in all their mock drafts. And I used to do a Huddle Report mock draft and try to rank myself with some of these people. And, it's a really fun thing to do, and guessing the draft, and it's very difficult. And if you get, a handful of picks right, team and player, in the first round of the draft, that is insanely good. So Josh Norris said he heard from a reliable source that a Brandon Aiyuk trade was potentially imminent. Like, it was very likely that Brandon Aiyuk will be traded during the NFL Draft on Thursday. And he didn't really elaborate on that very much. But, and I've gone back and forth on this in the last 24 hours or so. And all along, I've thought there's no way that the 49ers are going to trade Brandon Aiyuk. And look, if you listen to Locked On 49ers, you know that the plan that I've laid out all along, going back to last year, it was pretty obvious. You're going to re-up Brandon Aiyuk. You're going to extend him. You're going to keep the core together for this Super Bowl window. these 2 seasons, the 2023 season, which passed, and the 49ers came up just short, overtime of the Super Bowl, might have been their best chance to do it against, I think, what was kind of a down Chiefs offense. And then this season, 2024 upcoming, this is the best window for the 49ers to win. I don't see the 49ers making a big move that makes it more difficult for them to win the Super Bowl this year, even if it might be a move that could help them in a couple years. So I do think the right path and the path that they will absolutely be utilizing with Brandon Aiyuk is don't trade him tonight, extend him, and then keep Debo and Juwan Jennings and Aiyuk around with a cheap quarterback for another year. You've got a healthy Christian McCaffrey right now. You've got George Kittle. You've got all this talent. And then next offseason, some more difficult decisions will have to be made. Debo Samuel likely number one of those, and potentially moving on from him then. Because when you look ahead, just with age, Brandon Aiyuk's a couple years younger than Debo Samuel. He's much more likely to age better than Debo Samuel is body-wise because of usage and how they play and his ability as a player. In 2025, 2026, Brandon Aiyuk's going to be the better player, even though Debo Samuel's such a unique guy. And when you replace Debo Samuel, you're going to do that on the roster and on the depth chart, but not in the type of player you get. So I don't want to make it sound like it's going to be super easy in the future to replace Debo Samuel or anything like that. But, the report this week that the 49ers weren't going to trade Debo Samuel was pretty darn obvious to me. And I don't know if it seems that way to anybody else, but I don't even know why that really needed to be stated, because it doesn't really help the 49ers to trade Debo Samuel right now. And it doesn't help the 49ers in the short term necessarily to trade Brandon Aiyuk, although you could make the argument that trading Aiyuk gets you a draft pick, maybe that pick plus the money saved that you could use on a veteran player. And, the combined outcome would not be necessarily a lot worse in the short term and potentially better long term, potentially, but it would have to be a heck of a haul. And we'd have to be talking about a pretty early first round pick or a pretty significant stack of picks to make that worthwhile for the San Francisco 49ers. And I just don't think that offer is going to happen, but it could. And according to some people who do have pretty good connections in the league, maybe even likely that Brandon Aiyuk is traded. We're going to have to wait and find out. I'm doubtful until I actually see that thing happen. I want to talk about the 30 visits for the 49ers. I think this is a great place to try to get a really good insight into what the 49ers are thinking, what the 49ers are doing. For those people who don't know what a 30 visit is, every team gets up to 30 prospects that they can bring in for a private workout in their own building. So for the 49ers, in Santa Clara, they were able to bring in 30 prospects. We might not know some of them. We've just learned about some of them recently, thanks to Steph Sanchez, friend of this podcast, who sent out an updated list of the reported 30 visits. And there's 25 of them now that are pretty well confirmed and reported that the 49ers have brought in 25 prospects, and they have drafted a lot of the prospects that they bring in on 30 visits last year. Jair Brown and Braden Willis, and I don't know. There's a handful of them. Most of their bad picks were on 30 visits last year. So we know 25 of those right now, and I don't know, maybe the 49ers only did 25 30 visits. Maybe we'll learn about the other 5 after the 49ers draft those 5 because they kept them secret and we didn't learn about them, right? And so there's a reason why. But here is the list from Steph Sanchez of the 30 visits for the San Francisco 49ers, and we already knew some of these. And let's start with offensive line, since that's the big position that everyone is thinking about. And Kingsley Suamataia, one of my favorites in this class, sort of like my dark horse pick for the 49ers at 31. He's all over the place. Nate Tice, who's a really good analyst, and I trust his evaluations. His dad was an offensive line coach in the NFL, Mike Tice. He's got him higher than anybody. He's got him higher than me. He's got him at 22 overall on his board. And he cites a lot of the reasons why I like Kingsley Suamataia. It's not that he's a finished product or ready to go right now necessarily, even though he could compete for a starting job because of his ability. But he's got all the height, weight, speed measurables, athleticism, strong hands, long arms, everything to be a good starting caliber offensive tackle, left tackle, or right tackle for a long time in the NFL. And he just needs some technique work. Like the things he needs to work on are teachable and could be taught for a guy who's only a redshirt sophomore, finished his college season at 20 years old, just turned 21. He's a pup as far as his football life goes, yet he's got 2 full seasons, one at right tackle, one at left tackle of experience, in college football. So that's why I like Kingsley Suamataia, and Nate Tights says a lot of same things about him. And then you go to Daniel Jeremiah, who I trust a lot as an analyst. He's got him at number 121, a 4th round grade on Kingsley Suamataia. And so that's 100 picks apart from 2 pretty good analysts. So I don't know what to think about where Suamataia would go. But as far as the consensus board, which probably does as good a job as anybody of picking who's going to be good in the NFL, the consensus draft board, when you put all the top analysts and their draft boards together, Suamataia comes in at around number 43. Now, the only prospects on the reported top 30 visit list that, and again, you can find the full list from on Twitter at Steph49K from Steph Sanchez. Big shout out to her. And she was on the podcast, and we talked about some of these here a couple of weeks ago, or last week. I don't even remember. This channel is only 2 weeks old, so it was within the last couple of weeks. By the way, thank you everybody for subscribing to this channel and getting me over 1,000 subscribers already in less than 2 weeks. That's phenomenal. I can't thank you guys enough. I'm so excited about this channel and having an opportunity just to have an extra place to talk ball. And, we got super chats in here, and I promise I'll get to all the super chats if anybody wants to go in that route. And we've already been monetized here because of how many folks have been excited about the channel and subscribed and listened and watched to this new channel, OT with BP. So I'm pumped for that, to have some, just a loose place to hang out. And, we'll probably crack a beverage or 2 later on as we're watching the draft and watching this whole thing unfold. And I think it's going to be nuts and a whole lot of fun. And I'm glad that we don't know a lot about what exactly is going to happen. And it's huge that the NFL and the networks have done a good job of not spoiling the picks. And if, by the way, on the live stream later, if you're spoiling picks, I'm going to block you. Okay. I'm going to block you on Twitter. We're not spoiling picks here. That's not what this is all about. You don't want to know what's in the package at Christmas until you open that wrapper and you see what's inside. So that's really important. And that's what helps make this thing even more fun. So don't be spoiling picks out there, guys. Now, the 30 visits, the only 2 prospects that are on the consensus NFL draft board rankings higher than Kingsley Suamataia, and the only 2 other guys that's in the consensus top 50, Suamataia is 43. 1 spot ahead of him is a new name on the 30 visits list. That's wide receiver Xavier Legette out of South Carolina, 6'1", 220 pounds. He's built like A.J. Brown, but plays more like his college teammate DK Metcalf, in my opinion. Really straight line-ish, kind of tight, can flat out fly, 4.39 speed, but he's powerful. He can return kickoffs, so there's added bonus there. He's 1 spot ahead of Suamataia on the consensus board at 42. I've seen both of those names occasionally in the first round of mock drafts. And then the highest by far is number 24 on the consensus board, cornerback Nate Wiggins out of Clemson. Now, he's only about 175 pounds, but he ran scorching 40-yard dash. He is really fast. He's really one of the easiest evaluations to me in the entire draft process, because everything that you see is on tape, and what you see on tape was right there in workouts. So I don't know why they wanted to bring him in. Part of the 30 visits thing is you want to learn more about prospects. You want to talk to them. You want to see them face to face, learn about what kind of person they are. You might have a medical reason. You might have a background, a character reason you want to meet with them. And you also might want to throw teams off. Like, you're going to utilize your 30 visits to throw out some smoke screens as well. So are some of these prospects part of that? But Nate Wiggins is really the outlier for how high he's ranked, because he's the only guy that's consensus first round prospect that the 49ers have had a reported 30 visit with, save maybe the 5 that we don't know about. If the 49ers met with 5 more guys and had 5 more prospects in, maybe they're trying to hide the real player or players they like that are first round guys that are some of the 22 that John Lynch talked about having first round grades on. Maybe some of those are some of the names here I've mentioned. I don't know. But we We'll find out, right? Nate Wiggins, I don't think is a great fit for the 49ers. He would be in the category of players I hope goes before the 49ers pick because I think he is worthy of the selection at 31. But the lack of physicality and the lack of being able to be physical because of how skinny he is, it worries me a little bit. His change of direction and ability to stick with receivers isn't amazing because he's a little bit long-legged with his stride. And part of that is, when you're a burner and you can run fast like that, sometimes it's comes at a cost of being able to stop and start quickly. And I see a little bit of that out of him, even though he plays hard and he'd probably be a more physical player if he was just bigger, but he's not. And he's really skinny. And he has short arms for how tall he is. Someone like Kool-Aid McKinstry, who didn't run as fast and is 5'11 instead of 6'1, plays longer to me because he's got longer arms. And so even the height of Nate Wiggins at 6'1, 175, he doesn't play physical because he's not big and strong. And he also has shorter arms, so he doesn't really play to any sort of length. So he's a little bit of a player that I don't think fits great from a physicality standpoint for the 49ers, and is a player I'd be worried about with some boomer bust because I'm worried about how sticky he actually might be in the NFL, even though he's, crazy fast. And I think it's the right area for him to be drafted in that late first round range. And he could be there when the 49ers are on the clock, despite him having a 24 overall ranking on the consensus draft board. But going through the rest of this list, those are the only three in the top 50. And the only other three names on the entire list of the 30 visits that even sniffed anywhere near late first round in mock drafts, early second round in mock drafts are Chris Braswell, the outside pass rusher for Alabama, more of a stand-up 3-4 type of a style of player. I think he's a solid player, but he doesn't have a huge projection to being a stud pass rusher in the NFL and is a little small to be an every down 4-3 type of defensive end. So I don't know if I love the fit with Braswell for the 49ers, even though I like the player quite a bit. He's 54 on the consensus board, more of a second round guy. At 63, he'd probably be a fine pick. Marshawn Nealand, we've done a deep dive on him as well as Suamataia, Wiggins, and Leggett on the Locked On 49ers podcast. So if you want to go check those out. Marshawn Nealand, I've seen him in the first round at times, sort of a sleeper first round guy. Some people consider him. He's not a first round guy for me. Yeah, day 2 for sure. Second round maybe for Marshawn Nealand. He's a try-hard defensive end that has some nice traits and measurables, but doesn't really play to those measurables and is just bull rusher all day long. A really interesting name to me here, though, is Javon Bullard, the safety out of Georgia. He's 63 on the consensus list. And when you consider Nate Wiggins is on this list as well, and there's a couple other defensive backs, and I'll name everybody in this reported 30 visits from Steph here, and 25 of those names. The 49ers have, we'll put it this way. If you look at the 49ers roster, and they've done a pretty good job of fitting needs and making it so they don't have a ton of huge, obvious gaping needs. And if they wanted to go play a game, they have 22 starters. They go play a football game tomorrow, which leads me to believe they'll go best player available in round 1. But I think defensive back is kind of where I'm leaning at this moment right now. A couple hours before the NFL draft gets going, I'm kind of leaning toward defensive back as a pick the 49ers are going to make with one of their first couple of selections. Javon Bullard, safety out of Georgia, really smart player. I could see him being one of those gold helmet players for the 49ers, being a no doubt early starting safety in the NFL. And he's one of the few positions, and I think the secondary is the position for the 49ers that you can envision a rookie, a highly drafted rookie coming in and playing right away. Even a first-round offensive tackle might not start immediately for the 49ers. A first-round wide receiver certainly wouldn't start immediately for the 49ers unless Brandon Aiyuk's traded. And even then, it might take some time. And it does take time for wide receivers in the NFL, especially under Kyle Shanahan. He'd have, doghouse worries there potentially too, until they figure things out. But Javon Bullard could probably come in and start at free safety right away. Nate Wiggins, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Cooper DeJean, those guys could all potentially be picks at 31. and be opening day week 1 starters for the San Francisco 49ers. So I wonder if that's where the 49ers mindset is right now. And we should probably have some pretty high consideration for those few names I've mentioned. At 31, Wiggins, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Cooper DeJean, if they're around. I could absolutely see those being the picks. In the second round, maybe Javon Bullard. Looking at the rest of the DBs that they've met with, there's only a few safeties. Kalen Bullock out of USC and Sione Vaki, who Sione Vaki is one of the, throw him in your mock drafts. He's like the easiest one. At 5th, 6th round, throw him in your mock drafts. He's a high character guy. He played running back and safety. He's probably a special teamer early in his career, but he's got the physical ability to be, a really good player in the NFL. And so, I'm all on board on Sione Vaki as a day 3 guy. And he's a really popular, when everyone's doing their 7-round mock drafts, Sione Vaki's a name out of Utah that everyone's throwing in there for very good reason. And then you look at corner, you got Andrew Phillips, who's again more of a 2nd-round cornerback, more of a nickel cornerback. You got DeCamarion Richardson, he's more of an outside cornerback, really threw down some good workouts, more of a 3rd or 4th round guy there. And then you got Shaw Smith-Wade, who's again more of an undersized, smaller nickel corner. So 2 nickels, 2 outside corners, and then 3 safeties of various varieties that they've met with on those 30 visits, and all different rounds and areas of the NFL draft. So either Phillips or Bullard in round 2 at corner, or 1st round Wiggins, Kool-Aid, Cooper DeJean, something like that. Could absolutely see, one of those scenarios, either round 1 or round 2. But going a little bit further here, let's get back to the top names on the consensus board from the 30 visits. With Leggett, Suamataia, Braswell, Nealand, and Bullard. I think there's a very good likelihood that none of those players go in the 1st round, although a couple of them could sneak in. And I think there's a very good likelihood, even more likely, that none of them are available at pick 63 for the 49ers. So why are they meeting with so many prospects that are likely to go at some point between pick 32 and 62? My big prediction right now is that the 49ers will make at least 1, and who knows, maybe 2 selections in that area, which means they're either going down from pick 31 or they're coming up from pick 63. I think that is the plan for the San Francisco 49ers right now, based on these prospects that they're looking at. Yeah, RDC, man, this is my guy. Vasily California in the house. He saw where I was going with this thing. They're coming down from 31 or they're going up from 63. That's the vibe I get from the 49ers draft right now. And yeah, 3 4th-round picks, they can get up. They have the ability to do a lot. It's a lot less expensive to go up on day 2. Maybe they want to go up on day 3 of the draft and get into the top 75. And they can do that with a 4th-round pick. It's a lot easier to go up on day 2, the later you get in the draft, than it is to go up in round 1. And so either they are smoke screening us in round 1, the only 1st-round guy they like is Nate Wiggins, or they're not letting everybody know those prospects they really like in the 1st round, because I have a feeling 0 of John Lynch's 22 clean 1st-round grades are on that list of 30 visits. That's the vibe that I get right now. Invader 49ers says, I like Darius Robinson at 31 and then a move up to 55 for Rosengarten with 63 and 124. I mean, I'm in. I like Suamataia more than Rosengarten. Rosengarten is right there. I think that's the play, right? You sit back at 31. Does Chop Robinson get there? You make the pick. Is Johnny Newton there? You make the pick. Cooper DeJean, you turn in the card. Kool-Aid McKinstry, I would love it. He's a fantastic fit. Could start right away for the 49ers, ready to play. You turn in the card. You draft that player there, best player available, and then you go up and get that offensive tackle that maybe you didn't feel great about drafting the 1st round, but you move up into the 50s. You get Suamataia. You get Rosengarten. Maybe it's a center. Maybe Jackson Powers Johnson falls. Or I would take Jackson Powers Johnson at 31 probably over a guy that was the 8th or 9th ranked tackle in the class. So that's the vibe I get right now with the San Francisco 49ers. BPA, best player available at 31, go up from 63 and go get two of those players that you really like. Two of the players that you think can be big impact players early and starters in the NFL. So that's the plan. That's my draft plan for the San Francisco 49ers. And I feel pretty good. Feel pretty good about that. A couple other rumors around the NFL. Diana Rossini said that the Los Angeles Rams are trying to get up into the top 10. The Rams are picking 19, which means they would have to go up 10 spots about. What would the Rams be trying to do there? Trying to replace Aaron Donald, who just retired. They still need a lot of help on defense. I don't think their offense is a problem at all. So they'd be either going up to get maybe an offensive tackle, which, according to reports, everyone's trying to trade up to get an offensive tackle, probably including the 49ers, probably including the Kansas City Chiefs, who are behind the 49ers, would like to get in front of them so they don't take their guy if they're trying to get a tackle, which is why I think Pickens will be slim at offensive tackle by the time he gets to 31. And who knows, maybe Rosengarten and Sumataia are already gone. So maybe that's where the 49ers are just going to go, offensive tackle. They've got their guys, and you can't wait on that position Maybe that's the plan too. I don't know. But trying to type and talk at the same time, and my brain doesn't like that. The Rams might be going all the way up in the top 10. Byron Murphy, are they trying to get the top defensive player in this class? Going to get Dallas Turner? Would they be going to get, they've got two stud wide receivers already. Brock Bowers, how many guys can they operate out of the slot at once? You can only have a max two slot guys at the same time, right? Because there's only two sides of the field. So where's Kupp and Nakua going to play if you bring in Brock Bowers? They're not going to get a quarterback, are they? JJ McCarthy? That would be something. Stafford ain't young. Los Angeles Rams moving up. How about this? If we're daring to dream, I'm going to go back to the 30 visits and read them all. Forgot to do that. If we're daring to dream on what the 49ers are doing, by the way, Mel Kiper, who had Roger Rosengarten going to him in his mock draft last week, he did say in his draft day rumors and what I'm hearing article, he said that he floated Roger. He said he loves Roger Rosengarten, would be a fine pick in the first round for him. He said he floated that idea around the league and sources, and they're like, nah, he's a second round guy. So that makes me feel better about the Rosengarten at 31 thing. I'd be fine with him at 63, even moving up a little bit, just to make sure you get that last tackle that, can be a starting NFL tackle in the NFL, which I think he can. I think he needs to get stronger. And I'm less high on him than some other guys at that position, but I like him enough, day 2 pick for sure. So yeah, Kiper said that, more likely a second round guy there, but there's a player that would be fantastic for the 49ers. He's a crowd favorite. He's a favorite of Croc and I when we did our deep dives, and he's Rosengarten's teammate from Washington, Troy Fautanu. Now, apparently Fautanu is one of the players that might have had a medical red flag for some teams, and he had to go do a medical recheck. And could that be a reason that he starts to slide down the draft board a little bit? And if you see all the insider mock drafts from today, his name is a little bit later. It's in the 20s instead of the teens like it was just a couple of days ago. So Troy Fautanu is a dark horse player for the 49ers if they were to be a team that moves up in round 1, or just the guy that, because look, there's going to be a player that we do not expect at all that's going to slide down the draft board and be on board at 31 for the 49ers. And then we'll all be shocked when the Niners pass on him too. And it'll be like, well, this guy's got, arthritis or whatever, and the 49ers have kind of been a team to pass a blind eye to those types of things. And it's kind of bit them in some cases. They care a little bit less, I feel like, about arm length and some of those things. But I think they care more about the injury stuff and the medical than they did at one point, because they've gotten burned. They gotten burned by Javon Kinlaw, and, it's happened a few times. In the chat, it says Fautanu has been cleared, but people are nervous. Same for Bowers and Latu. And yeah, Latu had neck surgery, had to medically retire. Latu's another guy. Like any of the medical guys, guys with medical red flags, they could slide because teams don't want to draft a player in the first round that they think they're not going to be able to sign a second contract to because they're going to have such a short NFL career. Miles Jack was a famous one. Remember Miles Jack? Everyone thought he was going to top 10 guy. He fell to the second round. And there were times when he couldn't even practice in his NFL career during the week because he had, a knee condition. He was bone on bone in his knee. Jay Ajayi was another famous one like that. It's like, this guy's awesome. How is he falling in the draft? It's like, well, he can only play 4 or 5 years, which he did. He played well, but he had a short career. So Fautanu is one of those to watch for. He might slide a little bit further than we think to the point where maybe the 49ers have an opportunity to go get him. I think it's still a little bit doubtful, but it is possible. And there's going to be somebody on the board that we don't expect late, and there's going to be somebody that is not on the board that we for sure thought was going to be there that is gone early. And that's what I love about the draft because it is absolutely chaos. And one of, I just want to touch on this really quick. One of the overriding themes from 49ers fans that I've sensed, and I've kind of seen it in the chat a little bit here, especially on social media, radio call-ins, whatever it is, you have to draft an offensive tackle, no matter what, pick 31. And I'm not about that. Like if there's a really good player and it's the best player available, and like for me, Suamataia is like basically 31 of 31. Worst case scenario, you get Suamataia in the first round. But I hope that Suamataia is the 49ers' second round pick more than I hope he's their first round pick. You know what I mean? Move up and get him. Draft somebody even better with the first round pick. Don't force the need at tackle and bypass a better player, an all-pro player at another position. You can't do it. You got to go BPA in round one. Above all, that is my number one. Best player, go get him, draft him at 31, and then maneuver accordingly in rounds 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 to build your roster. It's not a one position draft. It's not a one player draft, and you don't live and die one season at a time in the NFL. You got to have at least a 3-year plan and look ahead a little bit. And the needs change so fast. Someone will get hurt in OTAs, and your needs will change already. So you can't go by what the snapshot of today is and who you think you need. You got to go further down the list than that. And so that's why I say do not force offensive tackle. And I will not be one of those that is upset that the 49ers don't draft the tackle at 31, as long as they have a plan to get some good offensive linemen immediately following that pick at 31. There's a caveat there. If they come out of the draft and they don't have anybody who looks like they can be a starting offensive lineman, then I just don't know what the hell you're doing. So there's that too. Back to the 30 visits really quick here. Here is the list of 30 visits from Steph Sanchez that's been following these. Wide receiver, Xavier Legette, Malachi Corley, second round guy, maybe third round guy potentially, mini Debo basically. Javon Baker, another day 2 wide receiver. Jacob Cowing, undersized, very fast wide receiver out of Arizona that could be a return man as well. Bub Means, who's a player who tested better than he plays, a really stiff kind of 6'1", 6'2", 212-pound wide receiver, has some size and had a really nice 40 time. He's a day 3 guy. I didn't love what I saw from him on tape. I think he's a little stiff, not a great route runner. Johnny Wilson is a super interesting one to me because this is a guy I thought the 49ers would not at all be interested in. He's got basketball athleticism. He's absolutely huge for a wide receiver. And to me, he's a tight end. So do the 49ers see Johnny Wilson as a big wide receiver that maybe he's a different style of player, but maybe that replaces Juwan Jennings at some point? Or do they see him as a converted tight end? Because he's athletic. If you're converting him to tight end, I really like Johnny Wilson out of Florida State. Just super-sized wide receivers over there at Florida State. It worked out really well, too, for his size. He'd basically be the biggest wide receiver in the NFL. He's, 6'5", 230? Is that what he is? Hold on. Let me pull up the official numbers on Johnny Wilson. Johnny Wilson, according to the Beast, Dane Brugler, he's got him ranked as the 22nd wide receiver in this class, a 4th or 5th round pick, 6'6" and 3/8, 231 pounds, yet still ran a 4.52 in the 40-yard dash. He's got super long 35 and 3/8 inch arms. That is the biggest wide receiver in the NFL if he's a wide receiver. I see a tight end. I mean, he's already 230 is big enough already to play tight end. You put 6'6" with that frame. He's got an NBA wingspan. Put 5'10" pounds on him. Maybe you have a dynamic tight end in the NFL. Johnny Wilson out of Florida State, really interesting player that I wasn't sure the 49ers would be interested in, but maybe they wanted to bring him in and work out and see if they were more interested in him, seeing if he had the mentality, if he was cool with playing tight end. Maybe that's what the 30 visit was about with Johnny Wilson. Interesting name there. I like that. Offensive line, as I mentioned, Kingsley Suamataia, a name I should have mentioned more probably in all of this. Day 2, offensive tackle, Blake Fisher. Consensus, he's kind of right after Roger Rosengarten as far as rankings goes. He has the athleticism to stick and play offensive tackle, length and all that stuff. I liked Suamataia's tape better. I think Suamataia has more upside. There's some upside there with Blake Fisher out of Notre Dame as well. Layden Robinson, offensive lineman, who I do not know anything about, and Caden Wallace, who's probably part of this as well. Late 3rd round guy, maybe a 4th round guy that also has a chance to stick at offensive tackle. And interestingly, Caden Wallace, he was the right tackle, the bookend with 1st round offensive tackle, left tackle in Olu Fashanu out of Penn State. And Blake Fisher was the bookend at right tackle with Joe Alt, the left tackle at Notre Dame. And so some pretty good offensive lines there and good prospects in their own right that could be part of the equation here for the 49ers. If they can't get, a 1st or 2nd round, and to be honest, maybe Blake Fisher, it would be the pick if the 49ers sat at 63 and Suamataia is gone and Roger Rosengarten's gone. Maybe a Blake Fisher pick would be expected there at 63 at offensive tackle. Caden Wallace could probably play some guard as well as, pretty much all these guys could probably play some guard. Maybe that's the plan early to have them play guard and then figure it out and then play offensive tackle. You could move Feliciano into center as well. So you would have some versatility there. But the key to me is you got to try to find a guy who can actually play and stick at tackle. Defensive line 30 visits. Marshawn Nealand and Chris Braswell, as I mentioned. Michael Hall Jr., I think that's one where you're trying to get in the guy's head because he left school early. He wasn't even a starter, although he's a dynamic interior rusher inside. He's probably a day 2 guy, but there's some character concerns and immaturity concerns with Michael Hall Jr., so that might have been a let's see how this guy's wired sort of a 30 visit. Brandon Dorless is a day 2, undersized, outside in, inside out, undersized pass rushing tackle. Could maybe, I think, looking at his workout numbers, maybe could be a defensive end as well. If you don't get Darius Robinson in round 1, maybe you're looking at Brandon Dorless in round 2 or 3 out of Oregon. Here's one, McKinley Jackson. He's 320 pounds, 320. He's huge. He doesn't quite play like a 2-gapping, big, zero technique nose tackle as you would think for a 320-pound guy. He's a little bit more upfield burst rusher, gap penetrator, which is surprising. So the way his size and the way he plays doesn't quite match up. I saw the 320, saw the 49ers met with him, so I went to the tape and he played a lot different than I thought. But maybe the 49ers see a day 3, rookie version of what they saw in DJ Jones. DJ Jones is a much more stout player on film in college than McKinley Jackson was at the same weight. But interesting player, McKinley Jackson out of Mississippi State. DBs, Nate Wiggin. I already mentioned all the DBs there. Yeah. So, and then linebacker, Trevin Wallace out of Kentucky. Interesting one, probably, 3rd round guy, Tatum Bethune. And then one tight end on the list, Eric All out of the University of Iowa. And that worked pretty well last time. And I think there is some really good day 3 tight ends in this draft. And I think the 49ers are probably going to select one of them with one of their 10 draft picks. So there you go. Those are the 30 visits for the 49ers. And some of those names I mentioned will be drafted by the San Francisco 49ers this weekend. I have no doubt of that. Which ones? A little bit more difficult to figure out. The Newt misses DJ. Yeah, I miss DJ Jones. I miss that size. All has a lot of medical concerns, according to RDC in the chat. Solid tight end later in the draft. Yeah, I like it. Day 3 tight end. Keep adding to the room. So that's wide receiver could go in any round for the 49ers. I really don't know what to think. They could go Xavier Worthy in round 1. And I'm liking my prediction of Xavier. Last week, I talked about on Locked On 49ers that my big prediction was Xavier Worthy's going to go way higher than people thought. And he was going to be the wow pick when he goes so high. Pete Schrager, who is as plugged in as anybody, had him going 17 overall in his mock draft this morning. And draft day morning are the mock drafts you want to pay attention to. That's when everyone puts out their best guesses and their best information. Xavier Worthy's going high. He might go wide receiver 4 in this class. And he did go wide receiver 4 in that mock draft ahead of Brian Thomas Jr., who might have a labrum issue, a medical issue that could push him down the draft board, maybe close to the 49ers. Who knows? I think Brian Thomas Jr. wouldn't be quite utilized correctly with the San Francisco 49ers in that offense. And so maybe he's the wrong pick for the 49ers. A.D. Mitchell, another red flag guy that's probably going to fall down the draft boards and maybe even all the way out of round 1. So don't be shocked how high Xavier Worthy goes in this NFL draft. All right, that's all I got. Just wanted to get some of that late information out there, some of the rumors going on in this NFL draft. Looks like Tyler Guyton's going to go pretty high. He's way up there now in a couple of mock drafts this morning from multiple plugged-in analysts. I don't love him for the 49ers anyway, so he would be one of those players that I hope goes high and goes before the 49ers as well. Nate Wiggins is probably in that category for me. Just push another player down to where the 49ers are at 31. So look out for that. Look out for either a move down from 31 or a move up on day 2 from the San Francisco 49ers. They'll make a draft pick between 62 and 32. And I hope that's the second player they take. And I don't care if they have to trade away their 3rd round pick this year at 94. That's not a great place to draft an impact player. I don't think that's all that different of a group of players you'd be drafting from in the 4th round anyway. So if they utilize pick 94 to go up and get 2 of the players I have in my top 32, for example, right? Because if that's what would happen if they were able to go up and get, say, Kingsley Suamataia in the 50s in round, 40s or 50s in round 2 after drafting a guy already that they have a high grade on. And who knows, maybe one of John Lynch's 22 first-round grades will still be on the board for them at 31. That would be a pretty home run draft for me. Can't wait. 3 hours to go until the Chicago Bears are on the clock at number 1 overall. Make sure you hang out with Eric Crocker and I. We're going to go live at 6 p.m., taking you through the second half of the draft. And if there's any other reasons to jump on earlier, we probably will. Brandon Aiyuk, will he get traded? Yeah, happy Draftmas, everyone. Appreciate all you. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and come back and hang out with Crocker and I later as we go live and break down everything going on in the NFL draft as it happens, including the first pick for your San Francisco 49ers, and then tune in to Locked On 49ers after the pick as well. We'll be going live tonight. It'll be in your feeds tomorrow morning, breaking down everything that happened in round 1, and we will talk to you then right here, OT with BP. We're going overtime, baby.